and it has been a while. It's maybe been a little bit of a crazy while, to be honest, and I don't know exactly how to jump in other than just to jump in and to address the fact that it's been a year. It's been a year since an episode was released, and so many of you have asked when another one's coming out. So many of you who have recorded episodes with me that have not come out yet have asked what it looks like, and it's been kind of hard to just give a direct answer, if I'm being honest, because I just haven't known what it was going to look like. But I'm excited to be here and talking to you all today. So, I would say there's maybe three things. There's three things. If this was a sermon series, it would be my 3-part breakdown of the night. But I have just been reflecting on the next time that I get behind the microphone and it's just me. What do I want to say? What do I feel like is going to maybe do justice? Not even that it's worth justice, you know? Because I don't think, I've said this before, like this is just for fun, you know? And I have never felt like I've owed anybody anything, and I still don't feel that way. But I also do feel like I'm a human, and there's just a shared piece of our lives. Whether you listen to a podcast of somebody who you know personally, or you listen to a podcast of a celebrity that you love, or maybe just a complete stranger that you stumbled across along the way, there is just this connection where you feel like that you know this person. And I find it very important to be known and to be loved and to be seen, heard, and valued. And I think in an attempt to reach through the microphone and connect with those who are listening, there's just a level of transparency that needs to exist. And so this last year has been very good, but I have also grieved a whole lot, and there has just been a space in the middle that exists that I can only truly say is from the Lord. And I just thought I would maybe touch base on the three things tonight. So we've got the grief, we've got the good, and we've got God. And amazingly, He is somehow in the grief and the good. And maybe for those who haven't listened in a while, or for maybe those of you that are listening for the first time, I never want what I am saying to put you in a place where you feel like that you can't connect with me or my circumstance. I think for sure there will be times where you won't be able to connect with my circumstances, and you know what? That's okay. But if my life experiences bring you to a place where you're like, you know what? I can't listen to this girl anymore. I would really love to know why. Not because anybody has said that, but more along the lines of, maybe to a fault, I try so strongly to relate to people. And I think in a day and age where life is very polarizing, and a statement pro or against something immediately means that you hate the other perspective. And that's not true. That is not true. I unfortunately spend so much of my life in the gray area because I tend to see both sides of the coin, for good and for bad. But I guess what I'm saying is that this is a welcome to come in and to take your shoes off, or maybe if you're at work, leave them on, or maybe don't. I walk around at work plenty without my shoes on, but rather just an opportunity to be like, you know what, we're humans and we're just trying to figure out life together. So I'm really excited about the episodes that will be coming out in the sequential weeks. Not going week by week. It's a lot. It's a whole lot. I'm just going to be really honest with you all. And I just feel like it allows for it to stretch out a little bit. So maybe one day we'll get back to a week-to-week situation. But for right now, we're looking at every other week I'll be coming out with a new episode. And there's some really great ones that are recorded. there's also really great ones that have already been recorded and shared, you know? So, honestly, every conversation has just been really great. And somebody asked me recently, why'd you do this? You know, like, what is the motivation behind it? And I was like, you know what? It's just because I want to sit and have conversations with my friends. And I remember the first episode that I ever recorded where it was just me. I was standing in my closet in the apartment that I was living in at the time, just trying to make sure that everything was perfect and that everything that I said was exactly what people needed to hear and something that would make sure I was articulating myself correctly. And here I am almost 2 years later, which is bonkers to me. And I'm like, you know what? I still want to articulate myself really well. But at the end of the day, I just want to have good conversations with my friends, and I want to connect with people on a level that maybe just feels unique or doesn't feel unique. So, again, in the gray area. I thought maybe perhaps I would start with the grief first, because nobody necessarily enjoys talking about grief. And it's interesting to me how mourning the loss of something really just, it doesn't stay hidden, you know. It is truly just like an uncovering of how individuals that you are grieving shaped your day-to-day life at some point. And so I touched on this last year a little bit, but it hadn't fully maybe, I guess, hit me, you know, the significance that these friends played in my life. But I lost friends last year. I lost two of them, and I lost one in January, and I lost one in May, and I just miss them so much. Every week I miss them so much. And I think that it's easy when you first start grieving something to look forward to the light at the end of the tunnel, to get to a place where you don't think about them as much, you know, or you don't find yourself looking for them in things. But really, I think what is maybe the hardest part of grief is that they will continue to show up even when you're not looking, because they were a part of your life. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that I had two people who made such a significant impact on my life in what doesn't feel like a short period of time by any means. But in the grand scheme of things, you know, 7 years of weekly touch points with people, I mean, that'll change your life. It'll change your life. And there is a jar of crunchy peanut butter and a can of Campbell's chicken noodle soup in my pantry that speaks volumes to the importance of having people close to you. And so, I'm still grieving that. I'm still grieving that a lot. And I'm looking forward to the episode with my friend Will, where we mutually kind of just break that down a little. But the love that I had for, and still have for, Billy and Vicky Barnes is just unparalleled. And I am so thankful that I had the chance to love them for a little bit of time here on earth. And I'm so thankful that the things that they did to show me love are things that I hope that I can pass along to other people. And so that was a lot, and it's still a lot. But I'll tell you right now, I remember, and if I shared this, you know what, I'm not even apologizing for it. But I remember sitting at Billy's funeral, and this is different. People don't do this where I'm from during funerals, at least not that I can recall. There's like a time in funerals in southern Indiana where people are invited to come up and share a story or something about this person. And I love that. I don't know why people in Southeast Missouri are not doing this, but if you're listening from Southeast Missouri, you guys need to start doing this because it just means so much to the family. And truthfully, I think that in some ways it is so much closure for people to be able to go in front of loved ones and be able to share something significant that this person did. And so we're sitting at Billy's funeral, and I lean over to my friend sitting next to me after some people have gone up and shared. And I said, you know what? I said, this is why you don't wait until someone's funeral to tell them how they feel, you know? Like, tell your friends and family that you love them, you know? Or tell them you don't, you know? Like, I think we're so afraid. We're so afraid to tell somebody how we feel for the fear of feeling silly or looking vulnerable or it not being reciprocated, you know? But I remember sitting there thinking, he is all of these things and more that these people are saying. And I went and I shared just a tiny amount, and I just think, like, did he know? You know what I mean? Like, did he know how much he meant to me? And then the same thing goes for Vicky. I didn't share at her funeral, and I don't know that I'll share right now. But I remember all those nights that I got to spend with her in the hospital or the rehab facility before she went home. And I'm just like, man, what a privilege for me to have had a moment earlier in the year where I had to learn, you know what, it's important to tell people how you feel about them. And so I did. And we had, given the circumstances of being in a hospital and having a broken pelvis and a broken femur and everything else that was happening, we just had the best time. And it's crazy to think that in moments of sadness that you come out of it with a new perspective that will bring you joy later on. So I miss them, and I wish that I would have mic'd them up while I had the chance, but now I just get to talk about them. And I think that maybe that's better. So, I miss them, and we're gonna move on to some other grief areas, and then I promise we will get to good. And honestly, like, grief is good. We are supposed to experience this, and it was made for us to walk through because it shows us the significance of a human life and how feeling loss means you had something that meant something to you. So, I think there's probably another area of my life that I tiptoe around a little bit, for the sake of people that I love. But this is also my podcast, and I won't be tiptoeing here. I left my church last fall. Myself and a group of others made an exit, and since then there have been some tricklings of some other exits, and it is possibly one of the hardest things that I have ever gone through in my life. And for those of you who have been a part of a church family, and I don't take the word family here lightly, I mean like a church family. And then you don't have that church family anymore. And what the version of it that you do have is different. It exists differently, and it's not been easy. And when I say that I've tiptoed, it's because I sit in a small group on Sunday nights of people who are still at that church, but I love those people so much, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world on a Sunday night than with those people. But then there's also people that I see somewhat regularly on Sunday mornings who left our church at the same time that I also love so much and wish it was the way that it was before. And there's just a lot of grief in that. And it honestly, it's crazy to think that when I first created, I would say like a goal list of so many people that I would love to have like sit down and to talk with a microphone in front of us. How many people off of that list came from a small church in Evansville? And there are still many people on that list, whether I go to church with them or I don't go to church with them. But I think that it for sure has allowed for me to ask the question of like, what is church? And not in like a deconstructing kind of way, but like, what does the little C church look like in comparison to the big C church? And if you're somebody who has wrestled with that, just know that I too am wrestling with you. I don't have the answers, but what I will tell you is that there is a woman who I do Bible study with who has prayed for me every single day since I shared with our group leaders that I was really struggling with feeling like I was going to find a church home again. And she has prayed for me every single day, and she has sent me cards, and I went to church with her a couple weeks ago. And when I'm telling you, like, every Sunday, I just feel closer to finding where I'm supposed to be. And I recently feel like I made the discovery of it is hard when you are so not just close to a church family, but like the church that I was at, like I think most people know, I was on staff there. I was in leadership there. I led worship. I served in children's church. I mean, I redid the floors in the sanctuary. I mean, there's not a corner of that church that I had not had my hand in. And so leaving there and moving in a direction of having to go find a new church, you find yourself looking for, in this instance, a Hannah-shaped hole that needs to be filled. And I'm like, how prideful of me to think that I'm going to walk in off the street and immediately fill a need that this church has. What if this church doesn't have a need? What if the church that I'm supposed to be at doesn't have a need, but rather it just wants me to be there, So it's not great. And honestly, I think I have moved through many of the stages of grief with that. And I hate anybody else who has, I hate that anybody else has had to go through this. But we're humans, and this is what I'll tell you right now. I have no hatred for anybody in this circumstance. There are people that I have, for no fault of their own, but I have wrestled with maintaining relationships because it's a pain point, it's a pain point. It's something, that I have, like, the church did not hurt me. I do not have church hurt. We live in a broken world, and life does not always look so perfectly, like that's the kind of hurt that I have. And trying to allow for myself to join and reopen myself up. And I mean, let's just be real. Like, the more you have a capacity for relationships, and my capacity might be greater than others, but even joining a new church, I'm going to have to stretch myself and allow for myself to maybe, I'm not saying leave other relationships, but in order for me to gain new ones, there is a perspective of I have to be willing to let go a little bit and see what God does. And so, not great, but we're getting there. We are. And then here's the last piece of grief, and then we'll move in. At the very beginning of the year last year, I prayed a very specific prayer, and I was very earnest and I was very honest, and I feel like I believed that God would answer it, and then he didn't. And I was like, okay, cool. That's fine, but I think as somebody who has quite a bit of pride and feels very confidently that the decisions that I make are good and I'm happy with who I am and what my life looks like, there are just still moments where a prayer feels unanswered, but like in reality, like it's just different than what I had prayed. And there's just something about coming to terms with something that you've asked God for, and him giving you something different, and remembering that he knows better for me than what I do, but still grieving what my mind had created, like this really awesome thing that I thought would have happened or could have happened. And God said no. He said, I have something greater for you. And I'm like, awesome. Will you let me know when that greater thing gets here? Because this doesn't feel greater at the moment. But I think that is just coming down to putting a lot of trust in him and remembering that I am just a human. And if it was up to me, a lot of things would look different, and many of you would probably not be happy about it. So praise be that I'm not the one making decisions over all of our lives. But I appreciate you all sitting through that grief. Now let's talk about the good. Can we do that? Can we turn this around and talk about the good? I'll tell you what's good. My friends. And I'm not just saying that because I claim to have 52 close friends. I legitimately am just thinking, like, I'm just really blessed with really good friends. I was having like a shower thought this morning, and I was looking at the back of my shower, and there's a laminated piece of scripture on the back wall, and it has been there since probably February of last year, maybe a little later. I don't know. Well, I moved in February, so maybe not. But it's been on my shower wall for quite a while. And then I also think about, like, this same friend also gifted me a journal so that I could take notes in sermons on Sunday morning. And I'm just thankful for those type of friendships, someone that's like willing to stand in the gap for you. And I think about my best friend and the fact that it is July. No, technically it's now August. I lied. It's August. But I have seen my childhood best friend more times this year than I have, I think, combined like the last 2 years. And I love that so much. We live like 11 hours apart and have lived about 11 to 12 hours apart for the last 5 years or so. But my friendship with her is so much better and so much closer and so much richer than what it has been in maybe our entire lives. And I think she would agree. We'll find out soon if she agrees or not. And I'm thankful for her. I'm so thankful for her. And I look around at like some of the friends who are maybe a little older and have wisdom that they get to pass on to me, and humor and life experiences that I haven't had. And I'm just like, my gosh, like, I know that if I need X, Y, or Z, who to call for X, who to call for Y, and who to call for Z, and I'm just really thankful. I'm thankful that a crazy situation happened a couple of weeks ago where I was driving and something flew up, hit my driver's side door, and ripped the door handle off. And so I quite literally have a nub to pull my door open with, because it is still in the process of being fixed, and hopefully, no, not by the time that this comes out, but it's going to get fixed soon. But all I did was find a YouTube video on how to fix it, send with no context this YouTube video to a friend, and was like, hey, can you help me with this? And he was just like, yes. I'm just really thankful. I'm thankful for the ways that God answered prayers through my friends. I'm thankful for the belly laughs and for the travels and for just the life that I get to enjoy with my friends. And when thinking about what this original 52 list looked like versus now, there have been moments that it's been kind of hard because you have your mind set on what it's supposed to look like. But then really, you're like, man, there's been people that I've added to this list, and I'm just really thankful. I'm really thankful for my friends, and it's been a really, really good year. And I would say maybe like leaning into like the community aspect of when so much of my world was wrapped up, and truly my identity was wrapped up in the church that I was going to. It has been very nice to just let community happen organically. Obviously, it has its pain points, as I mentioned, but there's just something also about organically letting community happen around you, both in ways where you just kind of take your hands off the wheel and you let things happen and you let people come to you, and then in other times when like you're going and you're grabbing somebody and you're pulling them back to you and you're like, listen, I need you, you need me, let's be friends. I always reference my friend Megan. She was the very first episode that I put out, close friend number 22. In our episode, we talked about how like Megan says that I kind of just picked her to be her friend, and like we're, you know, still really good friends to this day. And I thought about that recently where it was the 4th of July and I was standing around with friends. I had started the morning with a group of friends. I left and went swimming and had like a midday 4th of July celebration. And then I ended the night with the same friends that I started my morning with. And I just was like sitting there and the fireworks are going off and like I kind of had tears in my eyes, and I was just like, if anybody sees me crying right now, they're going to think that I am a loon because I am crying over the fireworks. Realistically, if anybody saw me, I would have very happily shared my political beliefs in that moment and it would have cleared up the entire situation. But I went from this place of like, my gosh, like I'm so thankful to have these people to share a life with, to like, dang, I'm sharing other people's lives with them, as opposed to like, where does my life fit in the middle of this, you know? And so community has just felt very organic, and I truly like have had these moments where I'm like overwhelmed with like thankfulness and like the goodness of community and with friends, to where like the overly thankfulness makes me realize why I have to be thankful for the gap that they play in my life. And then it like brings me to a place where I'm like, dang, like, man, who would I be without these people? And I have also had this conversation with my therapist, so please don't feel like that I'm dumping on you all, but rather I think it's just great to know that we are so dependent on each other, and not in like a codependent kind of way, but like we're not meant to live this life by ourselves. And I truly believe that like we're supposed to spend it with like-minded people. And I've said this before, you want to work out more, you find friends that work out. You want to read more, you find friends that read. Like that is just how this goes. I coincidentally am friends with women who are intelligent and funny and good looking and boss babes. And so I think you're picking up what I'm putting down here, but really just thankful is the only word that I have here, to wrap up the good. Because the self-expectations that I have, kind of the things that I feel like that I have prayed for, I've come out on the other side of this and I'm like, man, like I hope I'm more humble now. You know, I hope that the expectations that I have on this life have been taken off, and that rather I've been left feeling drawn towards the good and being continued to question what's curiously humble, you know, taking the approach of maybe I don't have this all figured out, and it's a lot more fun that way. The Enneagram 3 in me would maybe perhaps prove otherwise, because I obviously will become the best podcaster that has ever podcasted, the same as everything else that I do in my life. I have to strive for perfection, but it's just good. Life is good. I've had a couple of those moments recently where I am just zooming out and looking and just thinking like, this is a good life despite all the grief. This is a good life. And if I can see good in this life and I can help others see good in this life, I think that feels like a win. And so let's talk about God for just a moment. This is not an invitation for those of you who don't want to talk about God to leave. This is an invitation for you to sit, to challenge me, to challenge yourself. Because whether or not, I'll just put it this way, whether or not you believe that there is a God, it is something that's important to me, right? And I would say, in order to better understand who I am as a person and to care about me as a person, and truthfully, to be interested in this podcast, you need to understand that this is a priority. And I'm not afraid of it. I'm not ashamed of it. And I hope and pray that as I continue to grow older, that I am living in more of a way where you are less questioning my motives and more looking at the person, the being, the divine creature that is motivating those actions. Because God sees me and he sees you. And for the sake of protecting the sacredness of this moment that I feel like God showed me, and the intimacy in that moment, I'm not going to share details, but what I am going to share with you is that in the last year of my life, obviously we've talked about grief, we're not going to go down that road, but there was this one particular moment. I just needed something. And literally he provided. I still don't understand. I don't understand. For anybody who has ever opened up their glove box and has found money, or college students who reach into their pants pockets and they find 20s that they never knew that they came from, or someone who goes and they can't find something they've been looking for and they're in the 11th hour and they open up a door and it's exactly where it's supposed to be. Like, I think that we just all grasp this moment of like, it's completely out of our hands. And I just felt so seen by God, and not in a way where it was taking away maybe some of like the hurt and the pain that I was feeling, but rather he was like, hey, I am here with you in this. And I have laid plans so that your grief and my love are going to intersect here in this moment. And you're never going to forget it. You are never going to forget the fact that in order for my love to be shown, like, grief is going to be here. And that is hard. That is so hard for us to wrestle with, the fact that, like, if our God is good, then how can there be suffering? But how would I understand what those moments mean if those were the only moments that we ever got? If we only ever got those moments where God shows up in the 11th hour, it wouldn't be an 11th hour. It would be heaven on earth, and we already messed that up, and we don't get that yet. And so I feel seen by him. And if you don't feel seen by him, I pray you do. I pray that you do. And I feel like if you're listening to this, we are close enough where you could text me and be like, hey, I don't feel seen by God. Can we talk about this? And you know what I'm going to say? Heck yes. Let's go. Let's talk about it. I'm going to call you right now. We're going to talk through it. Or maybe don't talk to me about it. Just sit with it. Wrestle with it. I don't care, but like, you do you. You do what's best for you. It's my number one favorite thing to talk about. So feel free to bring it up at any time. And then I feel like I've already touched on this a little bit in the good, but the good doesn't come from anything other than Christ. And so when I look at the ways that grief has paralyzed me at times in the last year, but I see my friends and my community show up, I just have to think, man, like, God really does love me, and I don't understand why. And the Bible study that I just spent the last school year doing is the movement of the Israelites out of captivity back into Jerusalem. And it's wild, like, truly wild. Like, the skeptics out there, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, I really get it, because there are all these stories and they're all brought together. But, like, it is insane to me to think about what was happening during that time and the things that they were talking about, knowing that what was to come And they were just faithful. They were truly just faithful. They were blindly following Christ. And meanwhile, I'm over here. I have the Holy Spirit indwelling in me, and I am still walking around with my head buried and God only knows where. And he's still good. He is still like, hey, Hannah, why don't you come over here? Why don't we redirect ourselves and move over here? It's just been really great. So, where are we going? What's to expect? This kind of feels like a season 2. It feels like we are getting to a place where we had a nice little run. We had 6 months of pretty decently consistent episodes last year, and I felt a whole lot of pressure to get those out. I feel less pressure now, just so we're clear. That's the direction that we're headed. But this is where we're going. We have really cool episodes that have been recorded. Some of them have been sitting. Honestly, there are some friends that we have recorded episodes, and I'm like, you know what? We're going to start from the top, and we're going to do it again, because I think we have more. I think that there's something more to this conversation that could be had. And so, really looking forward to that. I would say just continue to expect deep philosophical conversations. Did I say philosophical correctly? I don't know. We're going to leave it in here though, because this is my show. You know, honestly, for those of you who've not seen The Wedding Singer, number 1, go watch it. Like, pause this right now, go watch The Wedding Singer, and then come back. I'm giving you your chance to pause it. Okay. There's a scene where Adam Sandler's character has had his heart broken again, and he's very, very upset, and he is at a wedding because he's a wedding singer, and he keeps singing terribly and just like really, really awful songs, and everybody's kind of booing him, and he's like, I have the microphone, so you will listen to every word I have to say. And honestly, it's kind of how I feel. I wouldn't do that to you all, but that's just kind of how I feel. But I am just expecting lots of good conversations and challenging questions, and just people being people being people. There's not been one episode that I have shared that I have not had something trickle behind it where someone has been like, man, that was so cool, like, thank you so much for sharing this, or hilarious. Just people being so thankful that they have someone else to relate to. So as always, I very much appreciate you all listening. Even just sitting here from the beginning of this conversation to the end, I'm like, this is fun. Like, this is so fun. I get why people do this. I get why everybody and their mother and brother wants to start a podcast, and it's because it's a lot of fun. And so I just appreciate you all coming along for the ride, and I'm really looking forward to what's coming, and I just thank y'all for being here. So I'm gonna head out, but we'll talk soon.